my screen right now. I'm just displaying a PowerPoint. All right, so thank you everyone for joining. Like I said, my name is Joe Freed. I'm a sales engineer for ZKTeco USA. I'm also joined by our sales account executive for the West Coast, Oscar Gomez, and then I'm also joined by our manufacturers reps for the West Coast as well, Carrie Berman and Daniel Zuckerman. So hey guys, how you doing? So what this presentation is really going to be is an overview of our two access control lines, and then also touch upon our latest addition, which is our cameras and NVRs, or network video recorders. So we can kind of get started here, and it'll be split up into two parts, part sales, and then also give a quick demo of the Atlas, which is our small medium business line of access control software. So just a little bit about the history of the company. ZKTeco USA is a subsidiary of a global manufacturer called ZKTeco. ZKTeco is actually the world's largest manufacturer of biometric and RFID solutions. Predominantly, ZKTeco started out as a time and attendance company, but then about 12 years ago, they started to manufacture access control and security devices, and that's what this office is. It's the access control and security device office of ZKTeco in the United States, which is why we're named ZKTeco USA. But you can see ZKTeco has a very robust global footprint. We have 3 manufacturing bases all over the world. We have 50 branch offices. So we're the ZKTeco USA. There's also a ZKTeco Mexico. There's an office in Brazil, Argentina, South Africa, Spain, United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia. So really, no matter where you are, you're not that far from a ZKTeco office. We have 14 research and development centers, 140 global service outlets, and our products have been used in over 100 countries all over the world. So you may or may not have heard of us in the United States, but around the world, we're really as synonymous as HID or Honeywell or any of the other very well-known access control providers. So about 2 years ago, we actually moved our US office from a small office in Fairfield, New Jersey, to a very large 30,000 square foot facility just north of Atlanta in a city called Alpharetta. So if you guys ever make it out to the East Coast, you can come down to our new office. We have an experience center where you can actually see how the devices would look in a pseudo real world application. You can bring your tech team down, you bring potential customers down, and you can get some hands-on training on the devices. And we really do have the most comprehensive access control and security line on the market. So not only do we have 2 distinct lines of access control, we were actually also the first company to introduce a multi-door biometric panel. So with other biometric access control providers, it's basically a standalone unit controlling one door, where we actually have a multi-door panel and slave credential readers, and we can have up to 4 doors wired to one of our panels. And of course, you can keep adding panels to accommodate all the access points in your project. We also do have our own line of standalone access control devices, including our new temperature and mass detection reader. They were very popular last year with the pandemic, and people wanted to make sure that people coming on site were not running a high temperature and were wearing a mask correctly. We have long-range readers. We have our new cameras and NVRs. We also have a line of entrance control, which consists of turnstiles, metal detectors, and X-ray machines. So I always say we're a one-stop shop for everything access control. Even if there is something that you come across, out in the field and you don't see a solution in this presentation, still keep us in mind and give us a call first, because chances are, if it's access control related, we have a solution for you. But what I'm going to start with today is our basically bread and butter system. It's our small medium business line of access control. It's called the Atlas series. So the way the Atlas series works is we have 2 types of panels. We have non-biometric panels where you can wire any Wiegand or OSDP card reader or keypad reader or Bluetooth reader, which we have options that I'll talk about a little bit later. And then we also have biometric panels. But for the non-biometric panels, they come in a 1-door configuration, a 2-door configuration, and a 4-door configuration. And you would just keep adding panels to accommodate all the access points in your project. And because Atlas is our small medium business line, there is a limit to how many panels you can put on an Atlas project. That limit is 21 panels. So if they were all 4-door panels, that would be a total of 84 access points or doors that you can be controlling. So, 84 doors, even though Atlas is our small medium business line, chances are you don't come across, 84 plus door projects very often. So Atlas can still accommodate large projects. Also, what's nice about the Atlas panels is that the software that you use to configure everything is actually embedded on the panel. So you don't need a server to host anything. You don't need to download anything. all you would do is take a web browser, type in the IP address of the panel, and the software, or sometimes I might refer to it as an embedded web application, will pop up in browser, and you can start to make your configurations. So some other nice features of the Atlas panels is that they have built-in PoE, so you don't need to run a traditional power supply to the panel. You can power the panel and the readers via the Ethernet cable, and they also have built-in Wi-Fi. So if you did run a traditional power supply in the panels, you can forego the Ethernet cable, and you can throw the panels up on the Wi-Fi network and talk to the embedded web application that way. So I'll actually demonstrate the embedded web application a little bit later. But for now, just know that they have built-in PoE, built-in Wi-Fi, and an embedded web application. And also, I'll talk about this a little bit later, but there's also a very feature-rich mobile app associated with the Atlas line as well. So these are basically the readers that you can use with the Atlas system. You can also use third-party readers. Basically, Atlas can accept any Wiegand reader and any OSDP reader. So this is just the readers that we manufacture. The top row, you can see we have a line of HID compatible readers. So we have a small multi mount reader. We have a single gang with a keypad. We have a single gang without a keypad. We have a Bluetooth reader, which is really cool. It turns your phone into a credential. So instead of having to take out a card and flash a card to the reader, you can just take out your phone and flash your phone to the reader. And then, like I mentioned before, the next generation communication protocol between the reader and the panel is called OSDP, or Open Supervised Device Protocol. So we have an OSDP reader. So pretty soon, if not already, you're going to start to see products that quote out OSDP readers instead of Wiegand readers. And then the readers that you see at the bottom, those are our ZKTeco credential readers that read our regular ZKTeco credentials. So it's the same basic idea. We have a small multi-mount reader, we have a single gang with a keypad, we have a single gang without a keypad, and actually we also, not that too long ago, introduced a QR code reader. So you can actually generate a QR code and email it to someone. It's a free way of issuing a credential to someone because it doesn't cost anything to generate a QR code or to email it to someone. And they can actually authenticate themselves just by displaying a QR code on their phone. We also just very recently introduced a new line of Bluetooth readers where you can actually authenticate yourself different ways. So with our Bluetooth reader that I mentioned before, you do have to activate the credential. It's an active credential, so it's not running in the background all the time. Whereas with these Bluetooth readers, it's actually running in the background all the time. So you don't have to even take out your phone from your pocket. You can actually just wave your hand in front of the reader, and that's one way to authenticate yourself. There's also an option to just tap the screen on your phone twice. That's another way to authenticate yourself. You also do have the option of taking out your phone and holding it to the reader. That's another way of authenticating yourself. And then there are physical credentials like actual cards or fobs that you can use with these readers. So that's a fourth way of authenticating yourself. So these are really very versatile readers. Again, these are the ZKTeco credential readers. So again, these read our regular ZKTeco credentials. And again, a small multi-mount, single gang with a keypad, single gang without a keypad, and our QR code reader. Oh, that happened very quickly. I wonder what that was about. All right, so then also what we have in the Atlas line is our biometric panels. So these panels basically can do everything with the non-biometric panels that you can with the biometric panels. You can wire Wiegand readers, you can wire OSDP readers, but also these panels can do fingerprint authentication. So again, like I said before, we were actually the first access control company to introduce a multi-door biometric panel. So it's the same basic idea. We have a one-door panel, a two-door panel, and a four-door panel. You would just keep adding panels to accommodate all the access points in your project. We still have the embedded web application. We still have built-in PoE. We still have embedded built-in Wi-Fi, but really the extra thing that these panels do in the system is that they can do fingerprint authentication. So this is the reader that you would use for fingerprint authentication. It's called the FR1500A, A for Atlas -ID. So it is actually a dual factor reader, so you can present a card or a fob to it, and you can set up dual factor authentication, or you can set up either or authentication. So if you want to require users to present their fingerprint and a card or a fob, you can do that. Or you can just say, present your fingerprint or present a card or a fob. And then the device that you see on the right, that's the fingerprint enrollment reader. It's called the SLK20R. That's how you would enroll fingerprints into the system. It's a simple USB device. So in a user's profile in the embedded web application, you would just place your finger on that enrollment reader 3 times, and that's how to enroll fingerprints into the system. And I can actually show you where to do that when I do a demonstration of the embedded web application. But one more thing that I want to mention about the two types of panels is you can mix and match the two types of panels so long as they're within the same line. So you can use an Atlas non-biometric panel and an Atlas biometric panel, and they can be configured together, and you would still only log into one of the panels for the embedded web application. So it's one database and one interface that you're working with. You don't have to remote into each panel for as many panels as you have in a system. If you do have a multi-panel project, one panel is designated as the primary panel, and then the rest of the panels are designated as secondary panels. They're all brought onto the same network, so they're all communicating with each other. The primary panel will configure all the secondary panels. So it's one interface and one database that you're dealing with, not multiple interfaces or databases. So I alluded to this before, but there's also a very feature-rich mobile app associated with the Atlas line. So basically, this mobile app gives you all the main features that you'd want to do in the embedded web application, but from your phone. So it has all the main features. You can add and delete a new user. You can initiate a lockdown of the doors and clear lockdown of the doors. You can lock one door and unlock one door. You can check records and you can check the alarm events, and it's available for iOS and Android. And the nice thing about the Atlas line is you'll actually get one free instance of this mobile app per Atlas project, and the only license associated with the Atlas line is if you want more than that, or if you want to get more instances of the mobile app beyond that first free instance, you would purchase a 9-pack. So up to 10 people can have this administrative mobile app. And then the way that we sell the Atlas line is we have a few different part numbers for the panels. So you can buy just the panel. So you can buy the 1-door panel, the 2-door panel, and the 4-door panel. If somebody, let's say, hits a panel with a hammer or gets struck by lightning and you just need to swap out a panel, we have a part number for just the panel. And then we also have a part number for what we call a bundle, which is the panel, the metal enclosure, and the power supply. So again, you can buy a 1-door bundle, a 2-door bundle, or a 4-door bundle. But then, because Atlas is our small and medium business line and projects tend to be very similar in nature, we try to make it really easy to quote out the Atlas system by providing a kit, which is one part number with all the accessories that you would need to get a system up and running. So you can buy a 1-door kit, a 2-door kit, or a 4-door kit, and it will come with the 1, 2, or 4-door panel, the enclosure, and the power supply, but also 1, 2, or 4 credential readers, 1, 2, or 4 request to exit buttons, a card enrollment reader, and 50 prox cards. And this is our RFID kit. And then we also have a Bluetooth kit that'll come with the Bluetooth reader and 10 credentials. And then we also have our biometric kit, which will come with our biometric readers and the fingerprint enrollment reader. So if you guys do have any questions, you can put them in the chat and I'll save some time at the end of this to answer some of the questions. But we try to make it very easy to quote out our Atlas line. So all you would have to add to these kits is the locking hardware, because we don't manufacture the locking hardware. So you would add, the door strikes or the mag locks. You would purchase those from your distributor. So that's really a very broad kind of 10,000-foot overview of the Atlas line. And a little bit later, I'll actually do a demonstration of the interface. But now let's move on to our enterprise level line, which is called the Pro Series. Excuse me. So with the Pro Series, this is our enterprise level line, but it's still a very similar idea to the small and medium business line in that we still have a non-biometric panel and a biometric panel, but also in the Pro Series, we have some other devices, which I'll talk about a little bit later. So these are the non-biometric panels in the Pro Series. They're called the US-C3-Pro panels. They come in a 2-door configuration or a 4-door configuration. There is no single door controller for the Pro Series. And these panels are much more robust in that they can store more card holders and record more transactions. So you can see in the first bullet point there, these can actually store up to 30,000 card holders and 100,000 transactions. And just for reference, Atlas could store 5,000 card holders and 10,000 transactions. So you can see how we're taking a giant leap there. These panels are much more robust. So just like with the Atlas line, you can support any Wiegand reader with the Pro Series panels. And also the Pro Series panels have multiple auxiliary inputs and outputs for connecting with third-party devices. So if you want to wire like a motion sensor and have it trigger a door to open, or if you want to wire like a smoke alarm and have it unlock all the doors when it detects smoke, you can do so. And also in the Pro Series, we have a part number for just the panels that you can see on the right. And we also have a part number for the bundles, which again is the panel, the metal enclosure, and the power supply. But there is no part number for a kit in the Pro Series line because the Pro Series line tends to be a little bit more customized and refined and also larger. So basically you would just buy the bundle and assemble all the accessories that you would need on top of that. So these are the non-biometric panels, and then we also have the biometric panels in the Pro Series. So again, it's a similar idea. We have a 2-door panel and a 4-door panel, and you would just keep adding panels to accommodate all the access points in your project. And also, you can add up to 2,000 panels in the Pro Series line. So if they were all 4-door panels, you can actually have up to 8,000 doors in a Pro Series project, and we can compare that to the 84 doors in an Atlas project, and you can see why this is our enterprise level line. But the biometric panels, just like the non-biometric panels, have multiple auxiliary inputs and outputs for connecting third-party devices. And of course, we sell them as in the bundle, which is the panel, the metal enclosure, and the power supply. And we have a part number just individually for the panel. So we also have an expansion board or an I/O board for the biometric panels in the Pro Series. So what this is a board that has 8 additional auxiliary inputs and 8 additional auxiliary outputs to play with. So one good use for this board is if you want to monitor the state of the door, if the door is physically open or not, but you don't necessarily want to provide access control to the door. Here you have 8 auxiliary inputs, so you can actually know if one of the inputs is shorted. You can say, okay, that door is physically open. So a lot of times dealers will call in and say, hey, I want to monitor the state of the door, if the door is physically open or not, but I don't necessarily want to provide access control to the door, and I have a lot of doors. So really, we developed this I/O board, for that reason, and also for other reasons. You can wire motion sensors to it, smoke alarms, fire detectors, lights, sirens, and you can trigger them upon certain events in the software. This is just a wiring diagram of how to wire the I/O board to a biometric panel. And then also in the Pro Series line, we have standalone devices like our Pro Capture reader. So these are essentially 1-door panels with the readers built in. So you can actually control lock directly with these devices, or they have a Wiegand output, so you can wire them to a third-party panel. It's a very simple way of adding biometrics to a system that might not have biometrics. So these 3 models of readers, these are more traditional readers. I only call them more traditional because we've been selling them for a little bit longer. I'll get into our newer readers in a little bit. But the Pro Capture X, it's a 3-factor reader. It can authenticate users via card, via fingerprint, or via keypad. And we also have an outdoor version of the Pro Capture X called the Pro Capture WP. So again, card, keypad, and fingerprint. And then the reader that you see at the bottom, that's our Impulse Plus. That's a finger vein reader, as well as a fingerprint reader, card, and keypad. So that's actually a 4-factor reader. And again, the nice thing about standalone devices is that you can control the lock directly, or you can send a Wiegand out to a third-party panel. You can use these readers with or without our software. So they really are the quickest, easiest, and simplest way to control access, to provide access control to 1 door. So you can actually just mount this to the wall, wire them to an electric strike, and power them up, and you're good to go. You can enroll people on these devices, and you can authenticate people on these devices. You don't need any software to manage them, but you do have the option of using our software if you choose to. So then our newest standalone devices in the Pro Series line is our line of facial recognition readers. We call them our SF, or our SpeedFace readers. So all the readers that you see on this slide, they can all do facial recognition. They can all do palm recognition. Some of the models can do fingerprint recognition. You can see the models that have a little sensor at the bottom there can do fingerprint recognition. They can all do card recognition, although some readers, you'll have to wire a card reader to it via the Wiegand input. And then they can all do keypad recognition as well. So you can see these are multi-factor readers that can authenticate users a number of different ways, but facial recognition and palm recognition are both no-touch solutions. So right now with the pandemic, people are very sensitive to touching a sensor that maybe 100 people have touched before. So if they do want the security of biometrics, but they don't want a fingerprint necessarily, again, these SpeedFace readers are a good solution because face and palm detection or palm recognition are no-touch solutions. So I'll just kind of walk through these SpeedFace readers one at a time. So first up, we have the SF1008-WP. So again, the SF stands for SpeedFace. Some people are joining. Let me just accept them here. Oh, okay, so SF stands for SpeedFace, and the 8 denotes an 8-inch screen, and then the WP stands for weatherproof. This is actually our outdoor reader, but notice how there's no plus at the end of the part number here, so that means that this particular reader does not do temperature or mass detection. But you can see the modes of authentication at the bottom there, so it is a 4-factor reader: face, palm, card, or keypad. And again, this is a standalone reader, just like the standalone readers that I mentioned previously. You can use these with or without our software. They have a Wiegand out, so you can wire them to a third-party panel. You can control lock directly, and they also have auxiliary inputs and outputs, so you can actually wire third-party devices to them as well. Oh, gotta click on this. Okay. So this is just a quick 10-second video of the reader in action. Somebody's going to drive up to a parking barrier. They're just going to look at the reader. You can see the gate's going to open. So they didn't have to reach out and present their card to a credential reader. They didn't have to punch in a password or a PIN number at a keypad reader. It's all very simple. And then we also have a version of that reader that does do temperature and mass detection, but you should note that any reader that does temperature and mass detection is an indoor reader. The temperature detection sensor at the top is not outdoor rated. But this is really our top of the line reader in that it does not require any calibration. So for some of the other models of temperature and mass detection, the ambient temperature of the room that the reader is installed in is very important for the accuracy of the read. But with this reader, it'll actually self-calibrate and it'll adjust changes in the ambient temperature. So anytime somebody wants a temperature detection reader in like a vestibule environment where the front door is going to open and close and the ambient temperature is going to fluctuate, I recommend this reader because basically you just put it on a wall and forget about it. It'll self-adjust changes in ambient temperature. So this reader is using our thermal imaging camera as opposed to our thermal pile sensor. That's the self-calibrating aspect of it. That's where the self-calibration is done. But again, it's a standalone device, so you can use a Wiegand out to a third-party panel. You can control the lock directly. A lot of times people are just using our temperature detection readers just to get a pass-fail if somebody's temperature is within a certain range or not. So a lot of times like doctor's offices or retail environments, they'll just get a pass-fail. They're not actually using it for access control. So that's another way you can use this reader. And then we have an 8-inch reader that does require calibration, and really all calibration is programming what the ambient temperature of the room is into the reader. So really, if you put this in a temperature-controlled environment and the temperature is not going to fluctuate, this reader is just as good as the other reader. So now we have a 7-inch reader, and the big thing to note about the 7-inch reader is that it's using an Android operating system as opposed to a Linux operating system. So you can actually develop an app that incorporates our temperature and mass detection, and you can load it onto this reader very easily. And then we have a 5-inch model without temperature and mass detection, and then we have a 5-inch model with temperature and mass detection. So just again, if you guys have any questions, please put them in the chat and I'll devote some time to it a little bit later in the presentation. So also as part of the Pro Series line, we have an elevator controller. So we can actually restrict users to different floors of the building. So it's called the EC10. It can control up to 10 floors at a time. And then we have expansion boards for the EC10 called the EX16, where you can add an additional 16 floors of control, and you can add 3 EX16s to the EC10. So the way it works from a user's perspective is that they would summon the elevator with a button on the outside, just like normal. But once inside the elevator, they'll authenticate themselves on a reader. And then the EC10 will only make active the buttons in the elevator to the floors that they've been granted access to in the software. So I might get in and authenticate myself and have access to floors 1, 3, 5, and 7. You might get into and authenticate yourself and have access to floors 1, 2, 4, and 6. So if you do have all 3 expansion boards connected to the EC10, you can control 58 floors with this system. So there also is a very feature-rich mobile app associated with the Pro Series line as well. And again, it gives you all the main features that you'd want to do in the system. You can add and delete new users, you can open and close doors, you can check reports, you can see real-time monitoring, and it's available for both iOS and Android. And then also what you can do with the system is we have integrations with the most popular video management softwares. So we can actually bring all sorts of access control functionality to the most popular video management software, so you don't have to change back and forth between the 2 softwares. You can actually check reports, you can open and close doors, you can see real-time monitoring all from the video management software, so you don't have to go back into the access control software. So we're kind of bringing functionality to their software. And then I'll just talk a little bit about this, but we just recently introduced a line of cameras and NVRs. So we have several different models of bullet cameras. You can see we have NDA compliant bullet cameras and non-compliant bullet cameras. We have eyeball or turret cameras. Again, we have NDA compliant and non-NDA compliant. We have dome cameras. We have pan, tilt, and zoom cameras. And we also have fisheye cameras, or at least one model of fisheye camera. And there are advanced analytics within these cameras. So if I come back here to our bullet cameras, you can see that some of these models of bullet cameras can actually do face detection. They can do line crossing. So you can actually draw a line in the frame. And you can say, hey, if somebody crosses that line, notify me. They can do target counting. We can count how many people are coming into view of the camera. We can do object detection. So you can actually draw a square in the frame around an object and say, hey, if this object leaves that square, alert us. We can do video loss, video tampering, sound detection, fire detection, scene changes. So there's a lot of intelligence in these cameras as well. And we also have a line of NVRs that you can use in conjunction with our cameras. These are just network video recorders, and they're using an encryption algorithm so that you can store a lot of data on them. So that's really all I wanted to talk about for this presentation, or at least the sales kind of part of this presentation. But now I'll just give a quick technical overview of the Atlas software and just kind of show you how simple it is to get the system up and running. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a new browser here. And again, the software or the embedded web application is actually loaded on the panel itself, so I don't have to download anything on my computer here. All I need to do is type in the IP address of the panel that I have at my desk, and the embedded web application will pop up. So you'll see the software is going to, or the embedded web application is going to pop up. I'm just going to sign out because I want to show it to you from the very beginning. So the first thing I'm going to do is going to log in with the default username and password, which is admin. And then I'm just going to go through the 3 basic steps of configuration. I'm going to make a new schedule, which controls when somebody has access to the door. I'm going to make a new access level, which controls which doors somebody has access to. And then I'll actually enroll a user, issue them a credential, and authenticate them at a reader, and you'll see what information the system brings back. So really, all the configuration steps are done in this access menu icon. So I'm going to first come over here to schedules, and I'm going to create a new schedule. And let's just say I'm going to create a 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday schedule. I'll click add on the right here, and first I'm going to set my hours, and then I'm going to set my days. So my hours are going to be 09 to 17, which is 5 p.m. because it uses a 24-hour military time. And now I can choose what days I want the schedule to take effect for. So I can choose Monday through Friday, or what I can do is just press the weekdays button down here, and it'll choose the weekdays for me. So I can save this. That's step 1. And now step 2, I can come back to access, and I can come over here to access levels. And now I'll choose what doors I want the access levels to control. So again, I'll click create just like before, and I'll name my access level. I'm just going to call this an employee access level. I'll choose add, and I'll choose the doors that I want associated with this access level. So right now I'm just demonstrating a 1-door panel, so that's why you only see 1 door option here. But if I had a multi-door panel, or if I had multiple panels, all my door options would be listed here, but I'm a little limited to what I can show because I'm just using a single door panel. But I'll choose the front door. And now I want to associate a schedule with the access level. So there is a default schedule of 24/7 that you can see comes up by default, but I don't want to use the 24/7 schedule for employees. I want to use the 9 to 5 schedule. Okay, and I'll save this. Now the last step is I want to come back here to access, and I want to enroll a new user. So I'm going to click on users. I'll click create just like before. And then this is the form that you would fill out to enroll somebody new into the system. So I'm going to enroll myself here. I'll put in my first name. I'll put in my last name. If I want to, I can also associate a picture with the user. So I have a headshot of myself here. And now there's all sorts of statistics and information that we can keep on a particular user. You can set them to temporarily expire if you want to. You can set them to permanently expire after a certain date. You can keep track of their email, their phone number. There's some custom fields here that you can keep track of whatever information you want to keep track on. But really what we want to do is we want to come over here to the cards table. We'll click add, and now we'll issue a card to this user by typing in the number that appears on the card. And I should also mention, we do have that card enrollment reader where you would just scan the card and it would populate this field automatically. Now, if you have a biometric panel, you can enroll a fingerprint by clicking on Enroll Fingerprints. You would choose what finger you'd want to associate or enroll for the user, and you can enroll all 10. And then you would just place your finger on the enrollment reader 3 times. And again, it's just a USB device, so you just plug it in and roll your finger in the system. I don't have one at my desk at the moment, but it's a very simple process. And then lastly, if you have a keypad reader, you can associate a numeric PIN number or password for this user. So I'm just going to type in 1235. So now what I want to do is I want to come over here to this access levels table, and now I want to associate an access level for this user so that the system knows when and where they have access to the doors. So I'll choose the employee access level that I created before. Now if I hover my mouse over the employee access level, you can see it kind of reminds me which doors and at what times this user has access to. So this user has access to the front door 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. So I'm going to save this profile now. This door access table, this is if you want to create an access level on the fly. So if you had a 10-door system and you have an access level controlling doors 1 through 5, but you also want to give this user access to door 10, you can choose door 10 and you can associate a schedule with it. So anyway, I can save this profile and I can come back to the home screen here. And here, this table at the bottom, this is real-time monitoring. So as a transaction happens in the system, you'll actually see a pop-up here. So I'm going to take my card and scan it at the reader that I have, and you can see it gives me all the relevant information, who it was, when it was, where it was, and how the user authenticated. And now, I used my card this time, but now let's do it with the keypad. So I believe my password was 1235. There we go. And now it says that access granted via PIN, whereas before it was access granted via card. So that's really how easy and simple it is to do a basic configuration of the system. There are advanced access control features in the system. You can set up a man trap where you can have a group of doors and only one door can be open at a time. You can set up a lock open schedule where the doors will stay unlocked between certain hours. You can set up a holiday schedule where, when New Year's rolls around, you don't want anybody to have access to the door. So that schedule can take effect on a special holiday. You can actually set up an opening group where the door will not open until multiple people authenticate at it. There was actually only one case where somebody, I'm aware of, that somebody used that, where it was a vote counting office in like Ohio, I believe. And the door, they wanted to set it up so that the door didn't open until one Republican and one Democrat opened the door. I always thought that was kind of a cool way. That's kind of funny. But yeah, so there are also advanced features in this system. So even though it's our small and medium business line, you can still do very advanced access control features. So I'm going to open up my meeting here, and I believe if anybody has any questions, how do I expand this thing here? But if anybody has any questions, you can type them in the chat.
Doesn't look like we've had any questions yet. Chat's empty so far. If no one has any questions, is that the end of the presentation?
Well, yeah, I was kind of assuming some people would have some questions. If you want, I can also show the interface for the enterprise level line.
Yeah, sure. I would love to also have that. And one quick question for you and Carrie. Are you guys comfortable with us using particularly these last 2 portions of the video of you going through the setup process? Do you mind if we save this and show it to potentially interested customers in the future who are?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Yeah, then that'd be awesome if we could have the enterprise setup as well.
Okay, so I'll just kind of go through, again, those same basic steps that really everybody has to do, but now the interface is a little bit different. So for the enterprise level line, the software that you'd use is called ZK Biosecurity. And it can integrate with basically everything that I showed in the enterprise level line. Our door controllers, our standalone devices, the elevator controller can also interface with our cameras. So this is really all-in-one software. Actually, I want to open up this version of it. So also keep in mind, this is a paid version of the software. It is going to require a license package based on how many doors you have in the system, and if you want to unlock other features like elevator control and video integration. So again, I'm going to sign in with the username password admin. And here's what the dashboard looks like. So right off the bat, it gives you a lot of statistics and analytics. It tells you how many users you have enrolled, how many devices you have linked to the software, how many credentials you have enrolled, and a breakdown of what those credentials are. And then at the top here, you can see there's different what we call modules that control different functionalities of the software. There's the personnel icon or module where you would manage users. There's the access icon or module where you would manage access control settings. If you are using our temperature detection readers, we have the temperature detection module, and then you have the system module. This is just where you would manage some settings of the software itself. But basically, I'll walk you through those steps I did before, but I'll walk you through them through the enterprise level line software, the biosecurity software. So I'm going to come over here to the access module, and I'm going to expand the menu on the left, and you can see there are all these submenus that I can expand and I can collapse, and then there are all these selections within the submenus. So I want to first come over here to the time zone selection. So time zones are what we call schedules in the enterprise level software, the biosecurity software. So you can see I have a 24-hour time zone created, and I have 9 to 5 created. I'm going to click new. Here's what the interface looks like, and I'm going to make a instead of 9 to 5, I'll make a 10 a.m. to, let's say, 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. And I'll give this some sort of descriptive nickname like day shift. And then to actually make the time zones or the schedules in the biosecurity software, it's a little bit different. I'm going to come over here to interval 1 and start time. I'll type in 1:10 for 10 a.m. and I'll type in 1:08 for 6 p.m. because it's still a 24-hour military clock. And but what I can do is I can scroll down to the bottom here, and there's this checkbox for copy Monday settings to other weekdays. You can check that. Now you can see what I put in for Monday is now populated Monday through Friday. So I can say okay. And that was basically step 1. That was creating a time zone or a schedule in the biosecurity software. So now step 2 is I'm going to make an access level. So I'll come over here to access levels. So you can see I have a general access level. I have an employee access level. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click new, and I'll make, let's say, a manager access level. And I'll associate a time zone or schedule with the access level, just like I did with the other software. So I'll choose the 10 to 6 that I just created before. And now it's going to ask me, do I immediately want to add doors to the current access level? I'll say okay. And again, I just have one device linked to the software, so I'm just going to choose that. I'll bring it over to the right, and I'll say okay. So now I have 3 access levels. I have a general access level that's using the 24/7 time zone. I have the employee access level, which is using a 9 to 5 time zone. And I have a manager access level, which is using a 10 to 6 time zone. And now I want to create users, or I want to create users just like I did for the other software in the biosecurity software. So I'm going to jump over here to the personnel module, and you can see my profile is already created. So I'm going to click new, and I'll create a new profile. So I'm going to call this person, let's say, John Smith. Oh, actually, John Doe. Why not? I'll just say John Doe, and then there's all sorts of information that I can keep track, what their gender is, what their birthday is, when they were hired, things like that. But really, I want to associate credentials with this person. So just like before, I'm going to come over here to this card number field, and I'm just going to type in a number that appears on the card. Or you can use the card enrollment reader, or actually with this software, you can tell the software that you're going to scan the card, and it'll say, hey, keep an eye out at this reader, because once I scan the card, I want you to use that card for this person's card number. So there's various ways of enrolling a card with this software. If you have a keypad reader, we'll come over here to device verification password and just type in, a PIN number for this user as well. We also have the ability to enroll fingerprints into this software as well. And then now what we also want to do is give them an access level so that the system knows when and where they have access to the door. So if I were to give them the general access level, they'd have access to the door 24/7. I'm going to click add, and here's where the other access levels are hiding. So I can choose the manager access level, which I created before, and I'll uncheck the general access level. So now this user only has access 10 to 6 at that door that we created before. So you can see the steps are the same, just the interface looks a little different. I do also want to very quickly talk about the temperature detection module here. So basically in this module, we can pull all sorts of reports from our temperature and mass detection readers. So if I were to come over here to temperature raw record report, you can see all the transactions from the temperature and mass detection readers. We do have this column here for photo, and that one feature of these readers is that they can actually take a picture of somebody as that person authenticates. So this is just the one that I have here at my desk that just kind of sits there and takes pictures of me all day. So not all these pictures are the greatest, but those weren't so bad, I guess. Let's see this one. That one's not so great. But anyway, we can also sort this however we want. We can sort this by time. We can sort this by device. We can sort this by user. There's all these filters that we can apply to this report. And we can also export this report to an Excel, a PDF, a CSV, or a text file. And then there's all sorts of different reports, pre-made reports in the software. Here's an individual temperature record report. So what this is a report of users in the software and what their temperature reads were organized by date. So you can see every row is a different date, and you can click on details and you can get a full report of all the times this particular user had their temperature taken on this particular day. So you can see here that that one's not so great, and that one's not so great either. But so basically, you can track over time if somebody's temperature is rising or falling. So here's a monthly statistics report, and actually, I haven't used this in a while, so let's go back to August. There we go. So this is for August. So this is a bar chart of different days of the month and a breakdown of the types of reads that happened on that particular day. There were 8 abnormal reads, there were 2 normal reads, and there was 1 unmeasured reads. So you can see we really make it very easy to get a lot of intelligence from the temperature detection readers very quickly. So I just wanted to make sure that I mentioned that. But again, if you guys have any questions, you can put them in the chat. I just wanted to make sure you guys had a broad overview of what we do. So I've said it before, I'll say it again, but we really are a one-stop shop for everything access control. There's really very few access control projects that we can't accommodate. So again, the 2 access control lines, biometric panels, non-biometric panels, temperature and mass detection, turnstiles, metal detectors, x-ray machines. We have visitor management software, our camera line, we basically do everything. Okay, so that's all I had planned for this presentation. I want to thank you guys for your time.